go. Hi.
Hi. So, how are you today?
Pretty good. It's been a long day, but it's been a pretty fun day.
That's great. That's great to know. That's great to know. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. That's really cool. Now, before we start, I have to give you an epic, badass welcome to the show. So, here we go. There you go. There you go.
I like that.
Perfect.
A standing ovation. Yeah.
All right, perfect way to start, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love it.
Awesome. So, now starting with the whole interview here, tell me how your acting career started.
Oh gosh. It started a very long time ago. I'm originally from South Mississippi. From Biloxi, Mississippi. It's kind of right outside of New Orleans. I see. Cool to see some of the people who joined. Hi, some of the people I know down there. But yeah, I'm originally from South Mississippi, and when I was about 6 years old, my mother took me around to try to figure out what kind of hobby I wanted to have. She took me by a soccer field, and I mentioned to her as a 6-year-old that sorry to anybody if this is just blasphemous, but I watched people chasing around the soccer ball, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. That looks stupid to me. And then she took me by a theater where this local community theater was doing The Little Mermaid. And I watched everybody getting on stage and auditioning and doing all this stuff. And I looked at her and I said, "Give me one of those forms. I can do this."
That's
and
cool.
Sang Downtown by Petula Clark. It's like a very golden oldies 1960s song, which I just knew as a 6-year-old for some reason.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of kept going from there. And I've tried other things. I've tried to do other extracurricular activities, but everything kind of always brings me back to theater. And then I just ended up making it my career because I cannot imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. How cool is that? And tell me some of the best experiences that you had on theater at the moment.
So far, some of my best experiences with live theater is the fact that I think the difference between live theater and television and film is that when you're doing a TV show, you film it and then you don't really get to see the audience reaction. You kind of hear the back later. With live theater, and this is definitely something that's been missed this past year, but with live theater, there's definitely this relationship. There's this connection between who's on stage and who's in the audience.
Yeah.
And that's some of my favorite part is just getting to genuinely see how the audience is reacting to what you're doing, whether good or bad or whatever. And definitely the happy and sad moments. I have had moments where I did a really sad show and I had a very tragic monologue at one point, and I could hear my dad in the front row just sobbing. So that was kind of a cool experience because it was a little dinner theater and I could hear him right there just really boo-hooing, and I went, wow, I did it.
Yes, that's so cool. And you have been in several so you have been in a lot of plays, but let's start with Hairspray. I mean, tell me about your character and what did you enjoy the most about playing it?
Hairspray was one of the first probably professional shows I got to do. It was a really cool experience. I was still in college, and it was through my college, but it was a workshopped production that I got asked to be a part of. But I think the most fun that I had in Hairspray is that I played Amber, which if you've ever gotten to see like the Hairspray movie or the stage show of Hairspray or anything, it is Amber is not a nice person at all. So that was my first real experience getting to genuinely play the villain of the show. And I remember, I think my favorite part that I still talk about today besides the fact that we had some really amazing costumes and some really cool wigs, when I came into my dressing room and I saw like the huge beehive blonde wigs that I got to wear, I was just beside myself. I was super thrilled about that. But there was one point we had these sold out houses and everything. And at one point, I had a line that I was being mean to the star boy of the show, to Link Larkin, and very rudely was trying to get him to follow me. And I said, "Link, come." And he didn't do anything. I said, "Link, come." And his line was to go, "Amber, go," because he was finally telling me off. And the audience cheered at my demise as the villain, and that was a really fun, cool experience. I remember walking off stage and I went, "They hate me. I love it." So that was really good.
Yeah, how cool is that? I think like playing the villain, it's always fun, right?
Yeah, no, because it's, I mean, usually not who we really are, but it's fun to be hated. And also, oftentimes villains, you totally get to say things that you would never say to another human in real life. You're just like, "Oh no, I would never be this rude or horrible to somebody else." But
yeah, exactly. And no matter what you do, at the end of the day, on your performance, everyone would say, "She's the villain." That's
fun. So they kind of forgive me.
Yeah, that's cool. And tell me how you normally prepare before going on stage.
It definitely depends on the role. I've played a lot of characters that just genuinely are not me as a person. In real life, I am definitely a bit quirky, awkward. I want to say down to earth, but I still like to dress up and do whatever. But a lot of characters that I have played are quite the opposite of that. So I think a lot of the preparation, I know a lot of actors would kind of go into a meditative mode, I would probably say. But I also have little nuances about preparing that I don't feel like I do very well if I've eaten too much, if I'm too full, because I loaded down on stage, and I'm usually playing these really active, crazy parts and everything. And some of the best times for live theater and that experience is just sitting and getting ready and looking at yourself in the mirror and just kind of mentally finding yourself in that role, in that zone, and the story that you're about to get to tell the audience.
Yeah, of course. That must be that must be like a very cool experience, like right after you go on stage. That must be very cool.
Yeah, the thing that I have to remind myself often, and it gets to this point that some of these shows you do for weeks, months, years on end, depending on what kind of contract you're doing. And while I have done the show 8 times this week already, it's always a nice, genuine reminder to know that whatever audience is coming that night, that's the first time they've experienced it or heard the story.
Of course. And I think that at the same time motivates you, right? To do like another excellent performance. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Now, you were in Shrek and you played as the dragon. Tell me, what are some of the best moments you had during that play?
That's a role that I never saw myself playing at all. It was my first contract for a union show, which for live theater, there's the Actors Union, which has kind of been a crazy world during the pandemic as well. In regards to that, I think anybody who watches this who is also an actor at this point will probably go, yeah, definitely. But whereas in the movie version of Shrek, the dragon doesn't really say anything. I think it's very fun. In the musical, she gets her own song and her own moment to shine, and still falls in love with the donkey and everything. But I felt very glamorous and powerful, and I also had a giant dragon puppet head that I used at points in the show. and that puppet head, she looked just like the movie version dragon.
That's cool. Wow.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I got to wear this huge sparkly red dress, sing this killer song and everything, and I can show you, because right next to me, as I reach over here, my parents sent me whenever I did that show, this came in the mail for opening night. So
that's so cool.
I think her eyes look a little funny. She looks a little drugged out maybe, but she's having a good time.
yeah, totally. That's so cool. Yeah.
Fun. Also kind of another villain role for that one.
Yeah, true that, Bobby. But on this case, you got the chance to be a dragon. That's badass.
Yeah, which I've always seriously loved dragons, so I was like, wow, now I am a dragon.
Right? That's really cool. Yeah, for sure. Wow. And what do you think it's like the number one thing actors should know when they're starting, like acting on plays?
I think there's a lot that you start to hear as an actor about, oh, this is my type, or this is the kind of roles that I'm supposed to play. I think it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think so much of being an actor and going into this kind of business is doing work that you genuinely enjoy. And I think that's the most important part. If there's a moment that you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's good to reevaluate it. And I've found in that regard that I've played so many parts and had so many moments that I never foresaw, because I was just open to experience and just to find out, what if I say that I can play that role, or what if I say that I can sing this song?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that's how I played a lot of different kind of parts that just aren't who I actually am as a person, but still have elements. Every role that I've ever played has some sort of element of who I am as a person, for sure.
That's so cool. Especially the dragon.
Yeah, especially the dragon.
Okay, there we go.
I think the dragon is like my inner monologue. Just, just something deep inside there, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. And what are some of the challenges that you first had when you started acting in theater?
Definitely some of that. Or I've had some moments along the way. I will say personally, this world, the acting world, that is so much about your physical appearance and who you are. I used to do pageants back in the day, so I've also had a lot of experience with just putting your best foot forward physically and beauty-wise and everything, but it does get hard at times if you fall into a slump and you feel like, oh, I've gained too much weight, or I'm so out of shape, or I'm not taking care of my skin, I'm not taking care of my teeth, I need to whiten my teeth, I need to change my hair.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought that goes into just you, and I found at times that I've definitely fallen short on that and just had to think, and I hope maybe this can be somewhat encouraging to other people who I'm sure have the same kind of thoughts out there. I think we all do, because it came to be a moment that I realized that it's not about being the most physically fit person in the room. It's not about being the best dancer in the room, the best singer in the room. It's just about bringing your own uniqueness to the table and giving away the passion for what you're doing. And I've had some moments, like I used to have super dark brown hair and now I'm blonde, obviously. But that ended up being a choice that this feels more like me.
There you go.
And so that is what has driven any of my decisions. As far as things that I've physically changed about myself, or over the pandemic, I did get very into fitness and nutrition. To look a certain way, actually, but just because I like how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good that you actually took care of that. On my case, it didn't happen that way.
I think it's really just finding that in yourself, and
yeah, absolutely.
I more so when I talk to people about that kind of arena, I'm just always like, do what makes you feel good. And
Yeah.
it's never about being the hottest person in the room or skinniest or the buffest or anything.
Yeah.
It's about walking in the room and saying, I feel really healthy and good about myself.
That's the key, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that we still live in this world that you need to be in this shape and you need to look like this in order, to sometimes achieve something. And at the same time, it just pushes you, and at some point you will it won't be you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I gotta say, especially with that, and especially in the theater and film world and everything, it's not necessarily something I conform to because it's not natural. People don't necessarily look a certain way that is normal. Everything is relatively normal.
Yeah.
All different body types, hair colors, styles, fashion, just general aesthetic, and I love that we're starting to see much more of that nowadays. I think kind of the pandemic pushed that forward, that a lot of people said, what if we saw somebody different, somebody who looked like me? And so that's been exciting.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, what the audience wants is someone they can relate,
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. That's something that I try to give when I'm on stage or in a film or something too, that I'm trying to be authentic, and I want to share that experience with the audience as well.
That's amazing. Now from Freaky Friday to Rock Ages, Disaster, Mamma Mia, Something Rotten, what do you think is the key for a good acting performance on theater?
Oh, on the theater, definitely going back to just really, really enjoying what you're doing. Some of those shows that you named there are some of my best memories in general because of how much fun I had. For something like Disaster, that is a show that I've done twice now, and I've played the same role. It's all 1970s rock music, and I played a nun with a gambling addiction.
Okay.
Which is very much not me.
Yeah.
She had a very dry sense of humor and these big 70s glasses and everything. And anybody who did get to see me in that typically looks at me in real life and then looked at me and, my habit and my little guitar that I had, and they were, what is happening here? But that's one of my favorite roles that I've ever played. And something like, I would say for both like Freaky Friday and Rock of Ages, shows like that, those were shows where the character that I had to play drove a lot of the story, and was on stage a huge chunk of the time. Freaky Friday in particular was probably one of the most exhausting experiences I've had. And I think that, as an external factor, was really a lot about making sure that I took care of my own physical health and mental health, because I was not going to do the show otherwise. It was a really vocally taxing show, physically taxing. I dyed my hair pink in that show. That was fun.
Okay.
But I remember that because they asked me to. They said, if we pay you to dye your hair, will you do it? And I went, yeah. If you're giving me money to dye my hair pink, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, of course.
But I was on stage. Freaky Friday is so much about the mom and the daughter, and I was technically the mom because they switched bodies. If you've ever seen like the Lindsay Lohan movie, and but for that, whenever the other girl, hi Lauren, I saw her message there. Whenever the other girl wasn't on stage, I was on stage, and it was literally all like that the whole show. And I would have this huge, a huge jug of water backstage that I'm just guzzling down. I think going into a theater performance, especially with ones like that, with these really high impact, high energy, Rock of Ages is all 1980s music, and I played this girl who like gets lost in Hollywood and becomes a stripper and goes out through this crazy mess. It was crazy, and I had like 15 costume changes. But it's going in and mentally psyching yourself up that once that curtain rises, it's game time, and you have to just, the audience can never know. You could be so physically exhausted, but honestly, it's kind of one of those things, like, the audience doesn't care. They'll sit there and go, oh, she looks kind of tired.
yeah. But I think like during those times, it's pretty much quickly, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it feels like you blink and it's over. And it's like a curtain call and you're going, oh man, I just did a whole 2.5 hour show. That was crazy. And I've had shows like that. I know during Rock of Ages, I had the opening night of that show. I definitely had food poisoning, and I had a huge fight with my own body that entire show because I didn't have anybody to cover for me like you would in a normal job.
Yeah.
I was sick, and I was like, no, you're gonna get through this whole thing. And I made it through. I was like kind of busy, and I made it through all the way through curtain call, and then I did not go greet the audience. I went, I'm gonna go downstairs and just
yeah, of course,
yeah. So it's things like that. I think that live stage actors are some of the most resilient people I've ever met in my life, and myself included. I think about some of the stuff I've done and still performed, that I've definitely had shows where I'm running like 102 degrees of fever. I think about stuff like that, and I'm going, how do we do it? Why do we do it?
yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But we do it because we love it, and that's why so many actors are. I don't think you'll ever hear them complain too much when they're sick, because we just go through so much.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. Now, moving on to your opera career, you were in Amal and Night Visitors, Carmen, Susanna. Tell me about your experience doing the shows.
I have not done opera in a while here, actually, since I graduated college. But my degree, I went to the University of Southern Mississippi, and I saw a couple people from here on this live stream. So what's up, Southern Miss to the top. But my degree there was in vocal performance, which was mostly opera, classical studies. So my goal when I started doing that is because with contemporary musical theater and so much loud belting, Southern Miss to the top, but so much loud belting and just all the strain on your voice and your larynx and everything. When I was going to college, I wanted to learn how to belt healthily, is kind of the thought process I had behind it. So I said, I'm gonna learn how to do opera. And it was actually really terrifying, because I'm not sure, and I'll admit this here on this live, and I'm not sure there was ever a moment that I felt that I was genuinely succeeding with opera. It was definitely a world in college and everything that I felt one step behind. I was around all these really incredible, amazing opera singers, and I'm like, I'm the musical theater kid trying to sing opera. But I had some moments that I genuinely enjoyed, and it's actually very strange now to go back and watch a video of me singing an opera piece or an aria or an art song or something, and I go back and look, and I think, wow, I really was down on myself at that time. I really just thought this was horrible, but this is not half bad. I kind of enjoy listening to this.
Yeah.
And so some of the fun ones that I had, when I did Amal and the Night Visitors, I'm a small girl and a soprano, which in the opera world means that you can probably play a kid. So in Amal and the Night Visitors, I did play Amal, and I was this 9-year-old boy on crutches. And so that was a very fun, cute show for me. my favorite memory of that is that I had this wig on, and I went to go borrow a couple of bobby pins from some of the girls in the choir there so I could secure that wig on. And I remember I grabbed that from them and walked away, and apparently our choir director turned around and looked at them and said, "Who was that boy?" and everybody was like, "That was Michaela. She's just dressed as a small child right now." And later on in college, when I did Carmen, I felt pretty successful at that moment, because that was one of the only times. It's hard in college, you audition for everything, and you get little crumbles of roles every once in a while. Everybody's being trained, and everybody's super talented and just really amazing and great. But when I did Carmen, I had like a supporting role in it. Played for Skeeta, and that's like one of the soprano roles. I had these really cool duets and trios, and there's this one amazing quintet in Carmen too, and it's all in French, and I was like, how cool am I never thought I'd get to do this. And it's actually strange because we're talking about this now. Every once in a while I'm constantly submitting for things in different theater forums, because that's kind of the way of the world right now, is that everything that we do, everything that we audition for is virtual like this. But I submit things. I submit like 20 things a week or so, and every once in a while like 2 or 3 things come back, and they're like, yeah, we'd maybe like to see more from you. Could you read this side? Maybe could you give us another song? Today I got one back, and it was for an opera, and I was like, that's different. Haven't seen that in a while. So yeah, so I say I haven't done opera in a while, but who knows? That might be, knock on wood, kind of soon.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, that sounds like a plan. You know, being back in opera, that would be cool.
Yeah, no, I would never be opposed to doing opera again. I also studied some opera scenes in Germany, and Texas, at a little college in Texas too. That was really fun, and a cool experience to put myself through as somebody who did not necessarily consider myself, the opera kid. It was very much just throwing myself into a world that I knew nothing about, but I learned a lot about. And now I love classical music. I love going to sit and watch the opera, and I do love when I get a chance to sing opera. Every once in a while, probably in my shower, my roommates are like, there she goes, she's singing in German, there she goes.
That's really cool. Wow. And is it like more exhausting? Because like,
in my opinion, yes, but I don't think that's everybody. I think it's kind of more what you're inclined towards. For me, I think it's just always that my natural inclination has been for musical theater. But I believe that anybody who sings does have the capability of learning both and doing both. I do think that my experience learning classical music helped me so much in the musical theater world. But I do feel like, especially today, if I were to turn around and go, okay, I'm just going to sing a whole aria, I do think I would need a nap so hardcore after. Because opera singers are gods among men. I have to say that. Just their stamina vocally is, it cannot be beat by anybody else in this world. And I say that like for musical theater singers, for pop singers, for rock singers, for everything. Opera singers, they are absolutely out of this world.
Preach. Yeah, for sure. I do agree on that too. And what advice can you give to someone who recently started doing opera?
Don't be afraid of it. I talk a lot about how it was something that I was really afraid of. I think opera is specifically a genre where it's easy to be afraid of your own voice.
Yeah.
Whether it's the power behind it or the lack of power. One thing that I discovered is that I'm definitely a soprano. I definitely have a brighter, pingier voice. And I had to learn along the way that there's no reason to try to make it sound darker or more pronounced and, you know, your typical, an opera voice, because that's not my... And there are roles for people like me. Like, I mean, I'm all in the Night Visitors, like small boy roles. But I think it's so much about that. Like, one thing that I tell people, whether I'm teaching a voice lesson or giving a master class or something, one thing that I've always said to people when it comes to belting in musical theater, and then a lot of these high, scary parts of opera or the crazy melismatic runs that you have in opera songs, I always say that a lot of it has to do with your mental approach to it. I consider myself, a high belter when it comes to the musical theater genre, but that's because I had a coach at one point who I wasn't belting a note, and I was kind of pulling away from it, and she said, "Why are you doing that?" And I said, "Because I can't hit it." And she said, "Because you can't hit it, or because you're thinking that you can't hit it." And it was just that mental thing that I took that moment to trust my own voice to say, okay, it is going to be there for me. Let's find out what happens.
Yeah.
And honestly, the first time I tried to do that, it came out pretty ugly at first, but that's the thing. Like, every ugly note that is done in a healthy way can be turned into something beautiful. You just have to keep saying, no, it's going to be there for me, and I trust my own instrument.
Yeah, that's really cool. Wow. Yeah, it must be. It is awesome. I went one time to the opera, but I was really, I was very little. I don't quite remember. But I had a friend that he used to be an opera singer, and his voice was just like, whenever he started like to sing, every one of us were like, what? Because he had like this strong voice that he would pretty much, like, no matter how good singer the other person might be, at the end of the day, like, without a microphone, he would pretty much rock everything. So
opera is very resonant because so much of the music and the voice parts were written to carry over a full orchestra.
Yeah.
Microphone.
That's great. Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I do agree with that. That those guys, you need to. They're true rock stars, though.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, moving to your film and commercial career, tell me about your character on The Prized Pig.
I don't have ample film experience, but that's something that I'm trying to gain more of. To shout, everybody watches this, and you go, cool, let's bring her on. I got you. But so The Prized Pig was a student film that I did here in New York, and that was like right when I moved to the city. And I felt so much irony in it because I was playing a pig farmer, and I'm from Mississippi, but I think they kind of saw my resume and saw, okay, this girl is coming up here from Mississippi. And I remember because they messaged me and they were like, well, surely you have like overalls. And I did not, in fact, have overalls. I had to go buy some from the thrift store.
Yeah.
But it was a cool experience. That was one of my first experiences, like having multiple camera angles, having multiple takes of the same thing over and over again, so you can get the shots compiled into the film. And it was definitely kind of an indie piece. The whole premise that I had this pig, and I actually have a pig here. This is not the pig, but it was a little kind of something. It was just a little tiny pig that was representative of being my prized possession, my prized pig. Yeah. And the whole storyline is that somebody stole the pig from me. I chased him all over Manhattan in this weird time lapse. the whole thing was very like existential, and we traveled all these different places in Manhattan to shoot this thing. And then at the end, when I finally found the pig, there's this weird one-on-one conversation with the pig that kind of ends in the pig being, it's so strange. The pig being like, "You slaughtered my brethren. Why you keep me around?" Yeah. I think my character is kind of like, you know what? I think I might be a vegan now. But the part that drove me crazy about it is like, my character fought to find this pig. I find the pig. I take it back from this thief that stole the pig from me, and then I have this conversation where the pig just reams me out for eating pigs. Yeah. So then when I wake up from this dream, I just take the pig and I'm like, you know what? No. And I give it back to the thief and walk away. Student films are a fun, interesting, very existential, dread movie world. But I had a blast doing it. I still have that whole cut of it. It was just a little short film somewhere, and when I go back and look at it, it makes me laugh a lot. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, we all have to start somehow, right? And yeah, it is one of the things that I do enjoy. That whenever I will do an interview, and then I will do like the whole research, like those like short films or projects. If I get the chance to see them, they're like, some of them are so hilarious. Like, so yeah, they're so fun. I feel like you might have to dig for this one, but it's somewhere. It's out there. So. Yeah, that's so cool. And what are some of the things that you enjoy the most about PV Chiropractic? Oh, that was one of my first commercials that I got to do. That was a local commercial. And to this day, I think the commercial still runs in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where I went to college. But to this day, every once in a while, I get somebody who messages me and goes, "I think I just saw you on TV. Yeah. Are you in a chiropractic commercial?" And so that I would love to do more of, just because I think it's such a cool world, especially in commercial film, that it's broadcast either, statewide, regionally, nationwide, and it's fun to see some of these commercials and go, "Is that my friend? I think I see my friend on there." And also to be put in like some weird situations, because that one, it was a chiropractor, so I'm walking in there and I'm like, my neck hurts and my back hurts, somebody fix me. And so now all my friends have that forever somewhere, that they turn on the TV and they're like, "Look at Michaela, she acts like this in real life. her back always hurts." That's so awesome. That's so cool. And from all of your characters that you have performed, like in general, right? Which would be like your top 10? That is so, I literally love all of them. I think my number one would still be Freaky Friday. Ellie Blake in that, just because it was the irony. When I got that role, I was told like, "Oh, this makes sense for you because you're kind of like a 40-year-old in an 18-year-old body." And I went, "Okay, that makes sense." But I've also loved some of my other top 10 there. I loved Disaster both times that I did it, and playing Sister Mary. The year before the pandemic, I actually just had back-to-back a bunch of favorite roles. I did Disaster, and then I did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which has been a favorite musical of mine since I was a kid, because it definitely is musical, and somebody out there watching this is just balking right now that they're probably going, "She actually likes Joseph," because it's a crazy, stupid show, but I think it's so much fun, and I got to play the narrator. It's a Bible story, but I got to play the narrator, and that's always been like a dream role. And then right after that, I did a show called Title of Show, which is only 4 people and just absurd and very real, down to earth and fun. And then right after that, I got to do Young Frankenstein, which was another big dream show of mine. And if you've ever seen like the Mel Brooks movie of it, it's very much that with song and dance added to it. And I played Inga, the Swedish lab assistant, and getting to put a lot of those stupid Mel Brooks jokes up on a stage and hearing the audience react to it. Also the fact that Inga, her character is just so, it's definitely like the beautiful but dumb blonde, which is just such a typical trope, but sometimes it's kind of fun to play a typical trope like that. I had a wig that weighed 10 pounds.
What?
It was really bad, yeah. And I sang this whole song where I had to learn yodel. That was just a crazy experience for me. But now I know how to yodel, which is kind of like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I remember one show I had to sing. It was part of my character that I sang upside down at one point, and so I would dip back every show and like belt upside down. But there's one show that I was so sick and everything up here was just so congested that I dipped back and I just felt everything in my forehead, and I was just going, I could just die here.
Yeah.
But that was the show that I almost like, my friend who played my love interest in the show, he like had my legs when I was dipping back like that, and I think he felt my ankle slip and that I was about to just really just dump myself on my head. But I appreciate him so much for this, because this is just live theater and all the crazy mistakes that happen. I mean, he grabbed me so quickly while I was singing, because he was like, you will not fall off of this little part right now. So those are some of my favorites. I'm trying to think. Also, Rock of Ages was so much fun playing Sherry in that. I would do that 10,000 times before I'm too old to do it. Also, the Spitfire Grill was a very, very fun one. It's based on a movie in the 1990s, and I never see anybody really do the show. It's a really kind of heartbreaking musical, but rooted in a lot of folk music. And that was one of my first paid jobs that I ever got to do. Crazy show. It's this girl that I played that she gets out of prison and then goes to work in this small hometown grill and befriends everybody, and everybody just like loves her. Then later on in the show, you find out that she was in prison because she murdered somebody. But she murdered her stepdad, who abused her and all this craziness. It's a really dark show that is unexpectedly dark, because you just sit there and you're like, oh, we're having a great time. Then halfway through it, you're going, what? And she did what? And he did what? So it's crazy. But that's a show that I kind of wish more people would do, but I understand why they don't.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get it too. That's so awesome. So you have like a lot of awesome characters. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, and hopefully more as we're starting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's any producer eventually watching or hearing this, you know who to call.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just say. I mean, I'm just gonna leave all of her website and information on the description, just in case, So.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say they can either call me or then they can call you, and you'll just act like my agent and call me.
Yeah. All right, sounds like a plan.
Yeah, there
Perfect.
we go. Got it.
Yeah. We have a plan there. Okay, got it.
Sounds perfect.
That's awesome. And like in general, what do you like the most about acting?
I really like the storytelling element about it. I think acting, especially in musical theater, is why I do musical theater. It's why I don't do a lot of just straight acting or just strictly like songwriting, singing, or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with either of those, or just dancing in general. But it's the combination. It's the fact that musical theater and opera and so many of these things literally are combining every facet of visual art and just putting it together into one crazy picture. And I think that's some of my favorite part of it. It definitely means that you have to like try to turn yourself into a superhuman so you can do all of it across the board, which is just insanely difficult. But I kind of enjoy that experience, the adrenaline, the rush of it, and also the impact that theater has on the people watching. That has always been the most important part to me. And I sometimes get into this argument with family or with friends who don't necessarily see it the same way that I do. But I've always believed that there is hardly a show out there that has not been written to without the intent of enacting change or revolutionizing something. So many shows are written because of something, and they really do have the genuine power to change lives, change someone's opinion, change somebody's day or their mood. And the power that holds. The same goes for, TV and film too. I think there's so many films that we can all say that we've sat and watched and gone, wow, this changed my life. And that's all that it's about to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. As I was saying before, at the end of the day, I think, personally for me, what I'm gonna enjoy is if somehow I can relate to some of the characters there, or what the story at the end can give, or I personally enjoy like this, for example, movies, right? Whenever it's the ending and it's done, and then you pretty much sit like for a minute just like thinking over like what just happened. Like those type of movies, I really love them. That they make you think, and they make you like, even though that when you're like back home, then you're just like thinking about it, like that's deep, like those type of things. I do believe that they can change somebody's life, or even so, just making sure that person is having a good time, right? And I think especially during the whole pandemic, all the like watching a movie or series or whatever became like super important, because at the end of the day, people needed something to get distracted. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of the pandemic too has really, for a lot of people, started shining a light on how important the arts are to all of our.
Totally.
Because like, what would we do without TV, film, theater, music, painting, dancing, just all of it? It brings so much enrichment to everyone's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think another thing that the pandemic did was to pretty much show people that to stop being like taking things for granted. I think that at some point we all been in this situation in which we think that we're gonna live forever and we're gonna be alive for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and so on and on. But that's the thing here, that life can change, super quick, and it can change your life forever, or stuff like that. And I think that it's very important to make sure that you're enjoying all the time, and what better way to do it than with arts,
I 100% agree. It's just definitely making the most of it. And I think it's also a really nice way to leave your own impact in some way on this world.
Yeah, absolutely, because at the end of the day, we only live once, And one of the things that hits me every now and then, it's to like once you're old, what's the message, or what kind of things would you be able to pass or to show to like the new generation? You know what I mean? Like, I know that for some people might be deep, like super, like deep stuff. But I just keep thinking about it, like, what is the message, or what is the thing? Because I do believe that everyone came to this earth for something,
Yeah.
But of course, that it's up to you to discover what that something is.
Find out along the way, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool. And what is the number one thing that motivates you to keep chasing your passion for acting?
It is definitely those gratifying moments. This is not an easy business. It is faced with a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
on the regular. I tell people sometimes, anytime you see me post a job or post an opportunity that I have, what you're not seeing is the 95% of the other jobs that I've tried for or gotten close to that I don't. Yeah. But it really is what you get back in return. It's so much of a business that is just for other people and for the entertainment of other people. But it means everything in the world to me to hear how I did impact someone and change their day, change their life at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you'd be surprised the kind of things that you hear and how much it means to people. And so that's kind of the energy that keeps me going at times. There are definitely moments, I think, for every actor that you wake up and you're like, oh my God, why am I still doing this? Why am I still trying? Why am I still just subjecting myself to all of this rejection, all of this pain, and I'm going to be upset tomorrow? And I've definitely had those moments. I've called my parents or something and been like, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like anything. I feel worthless. I feel like crap. And then the next day I'll get like 3 callbacks for something and I'll go, okay, maybe this is okay. Maybe this is fine. You know? And it's that hope and kind of the excitement of it. Because while it's hard, just for someone to tell you that, like, hey, I'm genuinely impressed by you, or hey, like, you genuinely bring me joy to watch, or you made my day or something, that makes me go, okay, I think I'm doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, true. I mean, whatever you're doing, if you make even like one person happy, then you're pretty much in the good way.
Absolutely.
In the good road, you know? Yeah.
Entirely it. Yep.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. Preach that.
Always, yes.
Yeah. Wow. And you know, like something that I have to say is that, like, as I was saying when I was doing like the whole research for the content, I mean, basically, yeah, you are a super talented person. I mean, we're talking about a lot of plays here. I mean, your resume, it's really, 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 really awesome. Also, your special skills are really cool, especially the one that you can impersonate the first 150 Pokemon. That's cool. That's badass. That's badass here. We should put that on platinum, you know. Just saying.
I always get really startled when somebody actually reads that part of my resume and they ask me about it in an audition, and I'm going, oh shoot. All right, I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And you can tell, like in things like that, in small things like that, that you, yeah, that even though that is your passion and is your work, you can still make it fun and you know, throw like something to make everyone be like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool.
Quirkiness in there, or a little bit of maybe she's a little bit of a nerd too. So
yeah, but that's cool. I think that it's like, especially during this whole pandemic crazy times, that we do need entertainment, and we do need stories that can actually either teach us something or even just distract us or the whole thing that's been going on recently, you know? So.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's absolutely vital right now because it makes me.
Yeah.
Yeah, or sometimes, I mean, some of them make you sad, but it makes you feel something. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Michaela, thank you so much for being here at the show. I mean, you are definitely a super badass person who knows how to play as a dragon. That's badass. That's super badass. I mean, everyone who's watching this, that's super badass, and we both know that. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see more of your awesome work in the future. I really look forward for you to get like some, like, even more work, and because at the end of the day, I think that if someone deserves it, it's you for sure. So make sure that you are just being you and not change, like, and like never. And also, thank you so much for those who are watching. Make sure that you're following Michaela in all of her social media. Also, if you're listening to this on the podcast or later on the YouTube video, make sure that you're following her. Normally, what I would say is just put pause here for a while, go follow her, leave a bunch of likes, and then probably share some things here and there. Why not? And then come back here. And again, thank you, Michaela, so much. You're awesome. Keep having an amazing rest of the evening. And before I let you go, you know what I'm gonna do. I mean, I need to send you off in an epic way, right? So here we go.
Oh.
You deserve that and a lot more. So yeah, keep being amazing.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
Perfect. Have a good one, okay?
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.